Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Dworkin. I have the honor of being the CEO of the National Summer Learning Association, NSLA, and welcome to our annual Summer Planning Bootcamp. We are so proud and excited to have so many people joining us from across the country who collectively are going to serve millions and millions of children across the United States. This is going to be very exciting 2 days. We have six hot button topics with almost 30 different speakers and experts from all these different organizations who are going to share their insights and resources and tips you could use with your team and your students this summer. And just to know that, we know the impact of a summer program. One summer program could change the course and direction of a student's year, but multiple summer programs year over year can change the course and direction of a young person's life. And that's why our planning and coming together right now is so important. These great programs don't just happen, it takes intention and it takes teamwork and coordination. And that's what we're going to work on in the next few days together. So, with that said, just know that we are with you and here for you after this planning boot camp. NSLA has resources and staff that can come and work with you and your teams as you get ready. So please stay in touch with us. Follow up with all the people you meet on this boot camp, and just know that we're here every step of the way.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Aaron, for that welcome and setting some context for us for sure. My name is Broderick Clark. So happy to be here with you all on this summer planning boot camp. I'm the Vice President of Programs at the National Summer Learning Association. We're just so super happy. Looking at the ticker and the number of folks on the call just keeps going up and up and up and up. We've had 1,300 folks register for the Summer Learning Bootcamp. Let's just pause for a second and just celebrate that. Folks are interested in getting together, coming together, learning, growing together in this space that we share. We know that you have been planning and getting ready for your summer programs. Maybe you planted the flag back in September. We're really big on that, starting the process early. And knowing that you're, engaged in that process and thinking about what summer can look like, feel like, and sound like, the next 2 days are going to be filled with resources that you can use and leverage that include strategies, practical, some tips, resources, ideas, and so much more is going to be shared with us over these next 2 days. So I don't know about you. I'm super excited. If you're excited, go ahead and snap it up wherever you are. Today, we have three important topics. And we're going to start with the macro, the big picture, and understand the full landscape for summer learning. And then we'll focus on perhaps the most pressing issue facing our young people today: their mental and physical well-being. And then we're going to end today focused on how summer programs can uniquely and powerfully encourage innovation and a really strong connection in communities. You've heard us say sometimes even connection over content. So again, that innovation in our space as well as that connection in communities. And while I know we're going to have an amazing time today, don't forget about tomorrow, same time, same place, 1 o'clock Eastern, when we talk about what happens in summer learning programs when we focus on elevating academic learning, because summer learning programs is an academic experience without question, with all that other good stuff rolled in there as well. You want to promote curiosity and creativity. And we know that we can't do these things in isolation by ourselves. That it's important for us to build partnerships. So I want to thank our amazing, amazing sponsors. These things do not happen without folks coming together and providing the resource and the talent to make sure that we're able to provide this great resource at no cost to folks. So we really appreciate AT&T and the Achievery, Engage Every Student, the National Inventors Hall of Fame, friends at the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, Waterford.org, STEM Sports, and our friends at the Wallace Foundation. Thank you so much to all the partners who helped spread the word for this and to communicate that there's this amazing bootcamp experience that we can get together, learn, grow, and make sure that as many young people can have a high quality summer learning experience this summer. So we have a lot to cover. So let's go ahead and get started. NSLA is committed to bring in research-based insights and tools to the field. We've partnered with PAIR, Partnerships in Education and Resilience, to redevelop the Summer Starts in September Toolkit. Let me say that again, to redevelop the Summer Starts in September Toolkit. I was down at South by Southwest just yesterday, and someone was telling me they still have their Summer Starts in September original guide on their desk. And so we're super excited. We can't wait to share that new version with you all later on this year. Right now, in this moment, though, we can learn about the new report from PAIR on the impact of major funding on summer learning. Please join me in welcoming Bailey Triggs, Managing Director at PAIR. Bailey, it's good to be with you here. Could you please give us just a quick overview on some of those top line findings?
Absolutely. Thank you for the warm welcome. I'm excited to kick this off today. If you take a look in the chat, the executive summary should be coming to you shortly. But I'm talking today about the massive impact that ARP funding has had on summer learning. This is something that we've been working on in partnership with PAIR, NSLA, and Dr. Gil Noem to pull together the latest research, what we're finding about this funding influx. So if you could pop to the next slide. As you know, there was an unprecedented investment in summer, in education. This is people talk about once in a lifetime opportunity. We're talking billions of dollars being put into the summer system with various requirements from states and LEAs to focus both on lost learning time, which highlighted summer learning, and also to specifically focus some funding on summer learning specifically. So you can pop to the next slide. For this research, we looked at more than 60 publications from 2021 to now. We're still looking at stuff, so I'll put a plug for my email at the end. If you have something that you've been working on, you want to share, we want to work it in. The full report will be done by the end of this month. So we're really interested in getting all the information we can about how this money's being spent. So it'll be things like looking at the school district plans, superintendent interviews, interviews with state leadership, providers, and parents. We're looking at funding trackers, and we're also talking to leaders throughout summer about how this funding impacted them specifically. So let me share now a few keyline findings that we have from this report. So finding number one, summer learning spending was a top priority for states and districts during the pandemic. If you look at this graphic here from After School Alliance, summer programming money, that's $2.4 billion going into summer when you're looking at all of out of school time. 3 out of 4 districts are looking at it. So it was a huge investment of time. So second finding. Thank you. So summer learning was also the most popular strategy used by districts to address learning loss. Now, this is important because there was a specific call out for summer and then a call out for learning loss. And when we looked at district plans, when we looked at how LEAs were funding summer programs, we found that focusing on lost instructional time was one of the most important things that they were doing, and that's how that money was being spent. And then super importantly, there was a study of summer schools' impact on summer learning. And we all know that there's typically a slide from summer, even without the pandemic influencing it. But there was a study that found that summer learning closed that gap by 2 to 3%. So that is super important and is really making a case for how summer learning could address learning loss. I'll move to the next. Finding number 3. So this is where we get to that theme of sustainability over speed. There was a rapid funding timeline. We're looking at the edge of a cliff now for things winding down. Some states only had 8 weeks to create a plan, which makes it really hard to come up with a sustainable solution. So while we're seeing this money coming in, it's an amazing opportunity. There was a big rush to get the funding out. And now that we're toward the end of it, it's really scary to see that 51% of superintendents are identifying summer learning as an area that would need reduction. So that is why it's so important for us to work together to focus on what we can be doing to leverage what we've learned, what the investments were, so they're not lost over time. So final finding. Thank you. The upshot is that funding supported community-based organization collaboration and building of new resources and tools. So 22 states use their funding to increase work with community-based organizations. I've highlighted some of the great work NSLA has done as well. And I think this is a place that we want to continue and to grow. And so thank you so much for your time on this. I'm going to put, please, my email in the chat if you have other things you want to share. I'm also excited to join the panel later and talk about this a little bit more. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, Bailey. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us. Without question, I can't wait to see the full report. As I've learned in my career to embrace data as a tool for continuous quality improvement and change, without question. It is my pleasure to introduce to this group Dr. Sharonda Witter, out-of-school time advisor at the U.S. Department of Education, my partner in Engage Every Student, and a fellow Tiger. So, pause up without question. I know you have a full panel, so I'm gonna get out of the way. Take it away, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, Broderick. As he mentioned, my name is Dr. Sharonda Witter, and I serve as the out-of-school time advisor in the Office of the Secretary at the U.S. Department of Education. In that capacity, I coordinate the Engage Every Student initiative, which is a bold call to action to provide high-quality, out-of-school time learning opportunities for every child who wants to participate. We partner with the National Summer Learning Association and 4 other national organizations to provide schools, cities, and local communities with the connections and assistance they may need to expand access to after-school and summer learning programs for our nation's students. If you have not already done so, we invite you to join the department, NSLA, and our other Engage Every Student partners as an ally or by making a pledge to help us ensure that every student that wants to engage in an after-school program or your amazing summer learning program has every opportunity to do so. The QR code and the website to join us is in this effort are both on your screen. So now it is my absolute pleasure to welcome everyone to the first panel of this year's Summer Planning Bootcamp, which is titled Summer Learning Landscape, Research and Policy. For this panel, it is our task to set the scene for 2024 by discussing what current research and policy are telling us about the summer learning landscape in 2024. In consideration of the needs of the students, families, and communities that we serve across the nation. It brings me great joy to introduce you to each of our panelists, and you see them on the screen. First up, we have Jen Reinhardt, who serves as Senior Vice President of Strategy and Programs at the After School Alliance, which is one of our Engage Every Student partner organizations. Joining her, we have Dennis Roach, who is a co-founder of Burbio. Next up, we have Jessica Gunderson, who serves as co-CEO of the Partnership for Children and Youth in California. And you also just met Bailey Triggs, who serves and works at PAIR. So, panelists, I see that you've all joined me on the screen, so let's dive right in. When we look ahead, what is the significance of summer 2024? What about this year and this summer do we want to understand and know to serve students and families better? And so for Jen, let's start with you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sharonda. And it's great to be here with everybody today. Really excited to be part of this conversation. I think this is a great way to start, right? Because summer 2024 is really a big one. As you just heard from Bailey, in many communities, this will be the last summer of fun, engaging, and enriching learning opportunities that are supported by the American Rescue Plan funds, right? So we know in far too many places that funding stream is going to come to a close, and without other funding to really fill in behind that, a lot of young people and families stand to lose out on these summer programs after this year. I do want to say, though, that while that policy and funding landscape is important, from the vantage point of young people and families, every single summer matters, right? like as Aaron was saying, right, the benefits of one summer are clear, the benefits of multiple summers are even more clear. We know that families really count on summer programs to help them manage their work and their life while school is out for the summer. And that summer programs really offer critical enrichment and learning opportunities for young people. I know from my own perspective, my daughter has been part of the same summer program every year since she was in kindergarten until now, and she is 17 years old. When she was younger, we counted on that program to help us work, to deepen her appreciation of the outdoors, something that we had really been already cultivating as a family, and to help her meet new friends and connect with caring adults outside of school and outside of her family and peer group. Today, she works at that program in the summer, and she's developing her time management skills, her communication skills that help her work with a diverse group of youth and adults. And she's helping to instill that same love of the outdoors in other young people today. Every young person and family deserves access to high quality summer learning opportunities. And sadly, we know that's not the case right now. We know that for every one young person in a summer program, one more would be if more programs were available, and that the demand for programs is definitely there, and also that the support for public funding for programs is there, right? So there's a will there. We just got to figure out a way to make this happen for more young people. And I think we've got the right group of people working on this issue to help make that happen. So I'm excited to help get us started here today.
Yes, and the Department of Education is thrilled to be working alongside you and our other partners in that effort with Engage Every Student. So Dennis, transitioning to you, what is the significance of the moment that we are in consideration of summer 2024?
Thanks a lot. One of the things I'll start off by saying Burbio is a data service that measures school finance and operations. We got our start in this space 3.5 years ago by measuring whether schools were open in person or not for 5,000 districts across the country. We're not an advocacy group. We're a data service that gets used by a lot of organizations. We actually read and transcribed over 7,000 ESSER 3 plans. Jen and her team put out a great report. If any of you haven't seen it, you should find it, looking at what kind of resources were being spent against schools and after schools programs, summer and after school programs. So I'm going to get kind of tactical. We're obviously a believer in what everyone on this call does. What we do is we have the benefit of watching how resources are being deployed. This is the third and final year of what's called ESSER 3. I will say this, and we have a bit of an arm, and we also have the benefit of being arm's length. Like we're not in the weeds. Like people were talking about the ESSER cliff, which is a real thing. So multiple things can be true at once. But they were talking about the ESSER cliff like 2 years ago, even long before ESSER funding ran out. What we see is that there are going to be billions of dollars spent in the 24-25 year, which hasn't actually started, although planning is clearly along the lines. And as noted earlier, there's an enormous amount of resources being allocated to summer and after school. What Burbio's business is we work with suppliers who use the information and advocacy groups who use the information to better understand the market. Sort of a tip, and I don't mean to sound this, one of the things we have found is that these plans, these ESSER 3 plans were put up on district websites to make some of you laugh. They were put up everywhere. To make some of you laugh, I'm not sure school CFOs were in love with that idea, although they all did it. But as a result, what we often found from our partners who talk to districts is the district decision makers themselves, and by that I don't mean the superintendent or the school CFO, I mean everyone below that, don't actually know what was written in the published plan. So even though we're at a late date on ESSER 3, by any way you look at it, there's an enormous amount of money in the absolute enormous of resources that will be spent in the next 9 months. We would encourage everyone to read your own district's plans, like literally read it. If you've done it, awesome. If you haven't done it, look at it, because you might find, obviously there may be resources that are allocated to summer and after school that can begin a dialogue. And then the other thing about these plans that I'll finish with is that they were often they were written in plain English. I thought they were awesome as a citizen, as a resident. Rolling them up into research studies was a bit problematic because you had to combine things. But you would have districts saying they were going to spend on tutoring, on STEM, on arts, often on things that can be used during summer. So even though the plans were relatively detailed, there was often some flexibility. So what we would encourage at this sort of final summer of the ARP funds being used is all the districts to try and find their plan if they haven't already, and then use that as a tool to potentially maximize what goes on this summer. Because even though we are near the end, it's still an enormous amount of resources by any standard based on historical patterns of spending in school districts.
Thank you so much for that, Dennis. Bailey, we're going to come to you next. Thinking about summer 2024, what is the significance of this moment?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been talking to summer leaders across the country about how the funding has impacted them. And the things that we're hearing is program expansion, increased access to, especially for low income youth and students that don't typically have access to summer programs. There's been an ability to focus on skills development and workforce readiness. So there's been a lot that's been happening with this funding. But as we're looking forward, there's that concern around sustainability. We have the funding, we have the resources, but how do we make sure we're investing them in ways that will last beyond this funding and will bring other opportunities to grow these programs and build off of what we've done? So I'm hearing a lot about the calls for partnership, also legislative support, and thinking through diverse funding, braided funding, other creative opportunities. And schools and programs and after school programs and summer programs have already been doing this, thinking creatively, applying funding in different ways. So there's definitely not, we're talking about a cliff, people are getting scared, but I think there's already been so many creative solutions to how we can do this, how we can leverage this funding. And it's so important. What I'm hearing too, with advice to policymakers and how to think about this, is to really have a holistic approach to funding, not just dump it and say we did it and move on, but really think about the whole picture of what already exists in terms of collaborations and ways we can just leverage what's already been happening. And it's so important to really elevate the consequences of not supporting a safe, productive summer for youth of all access points, to really make sure that it's still accessible, that we're still getting the programming out there, and the impact that that can have on academics. I mean, you see the research that's really promising, and we need a lot more of it to connect. We're seeing it as a strategy to address learning loss. Okay, let's build on that body of research to really prove that these summer programs, it's academics, it's socio-emotional learning, it's enrichment, it's relationship building, which at the heart is what this is all about. You're not going to grow as a youth in academics or anything else if you don't have those strong relationships. And that's something at Pear we really feel like is at the heart of everything that happens. And so summer is that place where you can have that mentorship. It's not just sitting in that traditional summer school that you think of, taking tests and filling out bubbles, but it's really having this enriching, connecting experience with a mentor that you care about and peers that you care about. And so we need to keep the research that's supporting that this kind of approach is successful in having students that then when they go to school don't have the same attendance issues and don't have the same kind of issues a student will have who sat at home and had to watch TV all day and wasn't as engaged as they could be over the summer. So it's definitely really critical.
Absolutely true, Bailey. And then coming to you to round us out for this question, Jessica, how would you define the moment that we are in for summer 2024 for the state of California and beyond?
Good afternoon, and great to be here at the Partnership for Children and Youth. We launched a Summer Matters campaign over 15 years ago, and really since then have been at the forefront of conducting research, advocacy, and technical assistance to ensure all kids have access to high quality summer programs. When I think about summer 24, top of mind for schools and policymakers across the country is the school engagement and connectedness crisis. Nationwide data reveals that chronic absence continues to be at unprecedented levels, from 16% before the pandemic to nearly double, around 30% in the 21-22 school year. When chronic absence reaches such high levels, the educational experience of the entire school community, not just the students frequently missing school, gets negatively impacted. And additionally, in California and other states, financing also gets reduced, really magnifying all these problems. So schools and their partners should be integrating attention to chronic absence and school connectedness in all existing initiatives, and especially summer, because based on youth development pedagogy, our program design, research clearly shows that summer programs are unique in how they are positioned to increase school attendance and student connectedness. It's what our programs really do best. And chronic absence data can be used to identify which students, schools, and districts should be prioritized. and the underlying causes from the perspectives of caregivers and students about why they are missing school and disinterested in school should be listened to and taken into consideration as all of us are designing summer programs for 2024. Summer staff can and do provide the additional caring adults we so badly need to engage with the students and families that have been disconnected and to provide learning opportunities that really reignite their connection to learning and to school. Summer programs with robust partnerships bring so many additional resources into schools and their approach to learning into schools that can really address the underlying causes of why students are missing schools. Given the fiscal cliff that many are talking about and facing programs, we need to be aligned with a district's most pressing needs and goals. And this could really lay a strong foundation for securing either new or existing funds into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. So switching gears slightly to our second question, as we think about our audience that's joining us today, that's in the midst of planning their summer programming, what is one thing that you want them to keep top of mind for this summer? And for this question, Dennis, we'll start with you. And Dennis, you're muted.
In the same spirit of my resource observation, there's a rapidly increasing amount of state grants that are being created. And these grants, as many of you probably know, are issued, many of them are issued on very short timelines. And they're, while on one hand, when you read them fast, you think they're prescriptive, but they're highly specific, but they can often be interpreted to incorporate things like summer programs. We've launched a funding tracker that tracks state level funding, and we've got over 50 identified that could be applied to summer programs. So we would suggest that everybody, and you can go to your own, we sweep all the states and we do this what we do, but you could easily go to your own state DOE and check it out to see what's there. So that's really the point that we would make about the moment we're in right now as it relates to this summer.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Bailey, coming to you next. What is one thing that you want everyone joining us today to keep in mind as they plan for summer 2024?
I would consider, I'm putting my research hat on, consider measurement, consider tools that are easy to use and accessible to summer programs. Pear has those. I mean, that's part of the work that we do, working with out of school time and summer programs. Because I think the more that you can measure and look at the beginning of a program, at the end of the program, you're able to tell the story of the impact that you're having. And as we think through how to apply for other funding, how to go for grants, how to keep this momentum going, having that data, having that measurement, having that way of showing we're working on this socio-emotional skill. My students have increased their empathy, their assertiveness, their trust, or their STEM engagement if it's a STEM summer program. And now they're really able to say, I am a STEM person. I feel like I belong in STEM, particularly thinking of youth of color, girls, underserved populations. Being able to use an easy, quick measurement to be able to tell that story is critically important and definitely something worth considering.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bailey. Jen, coming to you next, same question. What do we want those joining us today to keep in mind as they plan for this summer?
Yeah, great. So I think building both off of Dennis and of Bailey's comments, I know we've talked a good bit here already about the American Rescue Plan investment, right, in after school and summer, and people might be thinking enough already, but the truth is, right, this is the first time, aside from 21st Century Community Learning Centers, that we've had dedicated federal funding specifically for after school and summer. So this is a moment for our field, for this space, and for the young people and families who have benefited from that. And we really are at this pivotal point of figuring out how do we keep these programs going, right? And some of that is the state funding that Dennis already touched on, and a number of statewide after school networks have really been working with their governors and their legislators and all of the stakeholders to try and make that happen. But the data that Bailey was talking about are also critically important right now. None of us want to see kids miss out on programs as these ARP dollars come to an end. So I think this summer, if we really focus on gathering stories of how summer programs are making a difference for young people and families, and getting summer programs really thinking about the strong data that they need to be able to make the case for the important role that programs are playing, I'll say that if folks need some inspiration about what data to collect or what other programs might be collecting and how they're using their data, there was a new report that came out recently from Child Trends that was supported by the Wallace Foundation. That would be a great resource for folks to check out, and I can drop a link to that in the chat here. I also would encourage everyone here to check out the map of American Rescue Plan investments at Engage Every Student. Sharonda had already shared the link to that. And please make sure that if you have a program that's been funded with American Rescue Plan dollars, that you're represented on that map. And if you're not, you'll see ways to reach out to us to make sure that that happens. And even if your program isn't ARP funded, you know, many people tried and were not successful in getting American Rescue Plan funds. So like, don't take that personally, first of all. But if you do have great evaluation data to share about the difference that your program is making, please be sure to connect with your statewide after school network, with us at the After School Alliance, with NSLA, to make sure that we know about the difference that your program is making. We're all really working hand in hand to share as many good stories about the impact of after school and summer programs as possible. And we want to make sure that all of your stories are represented in that.
For sure, Jen. And I do believe we do have in the chat links to the map and resources from the After School Alliance. And so, Jessica, coming to you to round us out for this question. Again, same question. What is essential for us to keep top of mind as we plan and prepare to make summer 2024 the best summer for our students and families?
Yeah, as I stated, people are coming to us and asking, how do we address chronic absence and school connectedness with our summer programs? And when we went back to the research, we found post-pandemic, initially, and after school closures, that was the #1 priority for summer programs. And so somehow along the way in the last few years, we started getting siloed and a lot of our systems snapped back into focusing on instruction. So what I would say is kind of look at your playbook from post-pandemic. What did you prioritize? How did you re-engage students and families and your staff? And hold firm to your commitment to fun and joyful learning as the driving goals in your summer programs versus trying to make up for academic lags. Learning recovery can't happen if students aren't there. Step 1 is to get students to attend, feel seen, and have fun.
For sure. We want them to feel seen and have fun for sure this summer. So before we close, I want to invite each of you to participate in a lightning rapid fire round. For this round, I invite you to highlight one key resource or recommendation that you want to share with our audience. So Bailey, I'll come to you first.
Sure. I do a promo for the paper that's coming out. Please read the executive summary and the link. The full report is going to have all of the research that we pulled together, full links and everything. So I think that's going to be super useful. So I'd love to plug that. Please read the paper when it's finished.
Thank you so much, Bailey. Jessica, one resource or recommendation?
Yeah, just don't reinvent the wheel. We've done over 50 webinars on every summer topic you can think of, similar to NSLA, summer staffing, enrichment from practitioners. So go to the source. There are experts all across this country that we can learn from. So I'm plugging the summer game plan series we do to hear directly from practitioners.
Thank you, Jessica. Dennis, what is the one resource or recommendation that you want to share with our audience?
Well, Burbio, we have a thing called the Burbio School Tracker. We send that out twice a month and we talk about school spending plans. The second piece I would add, the world over, when you reach the end of a budget cycle, the place that organizations often deploy resources is against things they're comfortable with and they know that works. It's not the time to try something new. So I just want to reinforce this idea that in the next this summer, there's going to be a period of time where resources might be available for certain districts in opportunistic areas that would mean you could extend your programs because your districts have already tried them and you just want to do more of them.
Thank you so much, Dennis. And Jen, last but not least, rounding us out here, what is the resource or recommendation that you want to highlight?
Yeah, well, I think from what we've heard here today, right, it's clear that funding going forward is definitely going to be an issue. And we can all play a role really in helping to secure more funding for after school and summer opportunities for young people. People can reach out to members of Congress. You can reach out to your state and local elected officials. You can vote for candidates who support opportunities for young people. Like, there is literally a role for every single person, right, in helping to make this happen. And I recognize that's on top of what many of you are already doing, which is providing valuable learning opportunities for young people. But if we really are going to advance as a field overall, we need those advocacy strategies embedded in our work too. And of course, as Dennis already suggested, it's not too late to reach out to district leadership right now about any remaining ESSER dollars that might still be there for summer of 2024 and could even be contracted now for summer of 2025. So just a couple key things to keep in mind in terms of what folks can be doing. And there's a ton of resources on our website at afterschoolalliance.org.
Thank you so much, Jen. And as a note for our audience, our panelists will stay on to answer any questions that you've raised in the chat. So just know, hold on, they're going to respond to those questions momentarily. With that, Bailey, Dennis, Jen, and Jessica, I want to thank each of you for joining us today as panelists to share insight on summer learning from both a research and policy perspective. I trust that the insight and data that you have shared will be critical to all of us as we prepare to make summer 2024 the best summer yet for all of our students nationwide. It has been my pleasure to join you today as your moderator. And with that, Broderick, back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody on that panel. Thank you so much, Dr. Saranda, for your partnership, as well as your fellowship, without question. I'm a Jen Reinhardt fan all day long. Thank you so much, Jen. Dennis, it's great to meet you in this process. Jessica, come on now. You hit the nail right there, without question. And Bailey, thank you. We're going to continue. We're going to continue this work. I'm grateful for all of your perspectives and the wonderful insights that you just shared and dropped without question. Thank you so much for that. I'll also challenge us in this moment to just sort of like pause. If we can take just sort of 30 seconds to pause and think about the last 20 minutes. One key idea that really resonated with you. And if you want to go ahead and type that in the chat so just folks know, like, the last 20 minutes, we were all here. A lot was dropped on us. If there's any key ideas that really resonated with you, go ahead and drop that in the chat. The other challenge I'm going to go ahead and just sort of put here in this moment is to really ground this in a real person, a real child, a real family that's being served by our efforts. And I know some folks on the line, maybe work and interface with young people on a daily basis in some way, shape, or form. Some of us on the line are parents. So if we're not working with young people directly, we can think about those great humans. Some of us on the line are grandparents. I just became a grandparent the other day. Shout out to Emery. Appreciate you, brother. Like, just think about a child that benefits from being in a summer learning program. And I would also encourage you to actually physically write that child's name down. Put on a Post-it. Put it up next to your computer while you're engaging in this boot camp over today and tomorrow, just so that we're constantly reminded of what we're doing this for, why we're doing it, and why we put so much intentionality into making sure that anyone who has the honor and privilege to be in the presence of children are equipped with the knowledge. Go ahead and say it out loud, y'all. Knowledge. That's what this is about. The boot camp is about sharing that knowledge. The other piece is the skill. Go ahead and shout that out. Skills. You have to be skilled, which means part of being skilled is, practicing your craft. I love sports analogies. I appreciate brother LeBron James. I know he intentionally puts a lot of energy into his body on purpose, right? To achieve the greatness that he achieves on a daily basis. And so what are we doing as a sector, as an industry, as an individual to make sure that when young people come in front of us, that we're prepared to serve them with a high degree of competency and mastery, grounding our practice and even our attitudes, actions, and behavior, aligning that with what the research and best practice has taught us that young people need to survive and thrive. We know that young people will thrive, and we're just not talking about being off the street. We're talking about how do we move young people to thriving. There's a whole set of research out there on thriving. So just take the word, put it in your pocket, and go do some extra research on what does it mean for a young person to actually fully thrive. But we know that they'll thrive when they feel safe and supported and put in situations to learn and lead. Shout out to the Weichert Center for Youth Program Quality, David P. Weichert out there in Ipsy and all that for teaching us that. Also got to just send a wonderful appreciation as I think back on my career, like every step of the way, the Wallace Foundation has been right there. And so I'm just taking a moment. I just appreciate Wallace for all that they do to empower us to get young people access to the key developmental experiences that we know that they need to thrive, to survive and thrive.